From the outside, Daniel and Emily Carter were the kind of couple people admired. They lived in a quiet suburb outside of Austin, Texas, the kind of neighborhood where every house had freshly cut lawns, white fences, and friendly waves on Sunday mornings. Daniel, a 34-year-old architect, had built a stable career designing commercial spaces. Emily, 31, worked part-time as a wedding planner while managing their home and caring for their 2-year-old daughter, Sophie. They looked like the perfect American family. But behind closed doors, things weren't as picture-perfect as everyone thought. The distance. It started subtly, little things. Daniel used to wake up early to make coffee for Emily before she got out of bed. But lately, he'd rush through his mornings, grabbing a mug and disappearing into his office. Emily noticed. She always noticed. The small talks became transactional. Did you pick up the dry cleaning? Don't forget Sophie's appointment. Yep, I'll pay the bills tonight. Their conversations had turned into checklists. Daniel told himself it was just stress. He'd been working on a big project, a downtown hotel renovation that could mean a major promotion. But deep down, he knew that wasn't the whole truth. There was something about Emily lately that made him feel disconnected. Maybe it was her constant focus on their daughter. Maybe it was the way she scrolled through her phone at night, barely looking at him. And maybe it was because he had started looking at someone else, the coworker. Her name was Rachel, a new interior designer hired 6 months ago. She was creative, ambitious, and had that effortless confidence that Daniel found magnetic. They'd spent long hours together going over blueprints, arguing about color palettes, and laughing over cheap coffee from the office machine. It started innocently. Then came the late-night texts, and before he realized it, Daniel started hiding his phone from Emily. "Working late again?" Emily asked one Thursday night as he grabbed his keys. "Yeah, the client wants the lobby plans finalized by tomorrow," he said, avoiding her eyes. She gave him a half-smile. The kind that said she didn't entirely believe him, but didn't care enough to argue. "Don't stay out too late." "I won't," he lied. That night, Daniel didn't stay at the office. He met Rachel at a downtown bar. One drink turned into 3. Then in a moment he'd replay in his head 100 times, he kissed her. And once that line was crossed, there was no going back. Emily's silence. While Daniel was slipping away, Emily had secrets of her own. She'd noticed Daniel's distance, the random smiles at his phone, the extra cologne before work. At first, she tried to brush it off. Then came the late nights, the cold hugs, the missing warmth in his voice. She knew something was wrong, she just didn't know what. One night, after putting Sophie to bed, Emily poured herself a glass of wine and opened her laptop. She clicked through Daniel's social media, his work profiles, even some tagged photos from company events. And that's when she saw her, Rachel, the new interior designer hired 6 months ago. She was creative, ambitious, and had that effortless confidence that Daniel found magnetic. Instead of confrontation, Emily did what she'd always done. She smiled through the pain, pretended everything was fine, played the perfect wife. Until one evening, her best friend Laura convinced her to go out. "You need a break, Em. Let's go have fun for once." They went to a lounge downtown, the kind of place where the lighting was dim, the music smooth, and the men charming. That's where she met Jason. The stranger, Jason, was tall, confident, and funny in that easygoing way that immediately put Emily at ease. He asked questions, real ones, about her life, her dreams, her frustrations. For the first time in months, someone actually listened. They exchanged numbers just to stay in touch, but within a week, they were texting every day. Jason wasn't pushy, but he was attentive, something Daniel hadn't been in months. Their texts got longer, more personal, then flirtatious, then dangerous. Emily told herself she wasn't doing anything wrong. "It's just texting," she thought. "I deserve to feel wanted." But one night, Jason sent a message that changed everything. "I can't stop thinking about you. Dinner this weekend?" Emily stared at the screen for a long time. Her heart said yes, but her conscience screamed no.
That weekend, Daniel told her he had to work late again, so she went. The Crossing Point. They met at a quiet restaurant near the river. Emily felt guilty the moment she saw Jason. He was dressed sharply, smiling at her like she was the only person in the room. For 2 hours, she laughed, smiled, and forgot that she was a wife and mother. She was just Emily, a woman being seen again. When Jason walked her to her car, it happened. The kiss. It was soft at first, but full of hunger and loneliness. Emily pulled back, her heart pounding. "I can't," she whispered. Jason looked at her gently. "You don't have to explain, but if you ever need someone who actually sees you, I'm here." She drove home that night with tears streaming down her face. When she walked into the house, Daniel was already asleep on the couch, phone in hand, screen still glowing with Rachel's name. They were both betraying each other, and neither had a clue. The calm before the storm. Over the next few weeks, things became eerily normal. They played their roles, the loving couple, the doting parents, the perfect facade. But inside, both were lying, pretending, surviving. Daniel told himself Rachel was just a distraction. Emily told herself Jason was just a friend. But both knew better. The cracks were no longer invisible. They were widening, deep and unstoppable. And soon, everything would come crashing down.
Morning sunlight streamed through the blinds, brushing across Emily's face. She blinked slowly, her body heavy with exhaustion, not from lack of sleep, but from the emotional chaos swirling inside her. She'd barely slept after last night. The kiss with Jason replayed in her mind over and over, and with every replay came a flood of guilt. She glanced over at Daniel, who was pretending to be asleep on the other side of the bed. His breathing was uneven, not quite the calm rhythm of someone dreaming. For a moment, she thought about turning to him, confessing everything, asking if they could fix what they'd both broken. But she didn't, because deep down, Emily knew he wasn't innocent either. She got out of bed quietly and went to check on their daughter. Little Sophie was sitting up in her crib, playing with her stuffed bunny. When Emily lifted her into her arms, Sophie laughed. The sound soft and pure, a painful reminder of the innocence that still existed somewhere in this house of lies. The unspoken tension. Breakfast that morning was almost silent. The clinking of spoons, the sound of Sophie babbling, and the faint hum of the fridge filled the space between them. Daniel scrolled through his phone while Emily stirred her coffee, watching him carefully. "You're working late again tonight?" she asked. Daniel hesitated for half a second too long. "Yeah, we've got some final presentations for the client. It's been a nightmare keeping everyone on schedule." Emily nodded. "You've been saying that a lot lately." He looked up, his tone defensive. "Because it's true, Emily. I don't know what else you want me to say." She smiled faintly, the kind of smile that carried no joy, just disbelief. "Nothing, Daniel. I just asked." He sighed, rubbed the back of his neck, and changed the subject. "I might not be home for dinner. Don't wait up." She didn't respond. She didn't have to. Rachel's web. At the office, Rachel was waiting for him, leaning casually against his desk, holding a coffee cup just the way he liked it. "Double shot, no sugar," she said with a smirk. Daniel forced a smile. "You remembered." "Of course I did. You looked like you could use it." "You okay?" He hesitated. "Rough morning, that's all." Rachel tilted her head, eyes narrowing slightly. "Emily." He didn't answer, but his silence told her everything. Rachel walked closer, lowering her voice. "You don't have to feel bad, you know. Sometimes things end before people admit it to themselves." Daniel wanted to protest, to say that Emily wasn't the problem.
that their marriage was just complicated. But then Rachel touched his arm, and the words vanished. The guilt melted into desire, and desire into something even more dangerous: attachment. By the time lunch rolled around, they were laughing again, working side by side like nothing was wrong. But when Rachel's hand brushed his while they reached for the same folder, the spark between them flared again. That afternoon, Daniel's resolute completely shattered. He kissed her in the empty conference room, and this time it wasn't a mistake. It was deliberate. Emily's escape. Meanwhile, Emily was at home staring at her phone. Jason's name lit up the screen. Jason, thinking about you. Lunch today? She typed, deleted, and retyped her reply 3 times before hitting send. Emily, I shouldn't, but I need to get out of the house for a while. They met at a small cafe outside the city. Jason looked thrilled to see her, but Emily couldn't hide the storm brewing behind her smile. You okay? He asked gently. She hesitated. I don't know. I just feel lost. Everything at home feels fake. I keep pretending, but I can't do it anymore. Jason reached across the table, his fingers brushing hers. You don't have to pretend with me. For a moment, she let herself believe him. His kindness felt genuine, and his attention felt like oxygen in a suffocating life. But deep inside, she knew she was walking a line she couldn't uncross. When she left that cafe, she didn't kiss him. Not this time. But she didn't block his number either. Cracks in the glass. That night, Emily waited for Daniel to come home. When he finally walked through the door, it was nearly midnight. He smelled faintly of perfume, not hers, and his shirt collar was wrinkled. You're late, she said quietly. I told you I'd be, he muttered, avoiding her eyes as he took off his shoes. Did you at least eat? Yeah, we ordered something at the office. She crossed her arms. Right, the office. Daniel froze. What's that supposed to mean? Emily didn't answer immediately. She just looked at him. Really looked at him. The tension between them was thick, electric. Then she smiled coldly. Nothing. Just wondering when the office started smelling like women's perfume. His jaw tightened. You're imagining things. Am I? Daniel didn't reply. Instead, he grabbed his jacket and went into his home office, slamming the door behind him. Emily stood there in silence, her hands trembling, tears burning at the corners of her eyes. The evidence. The next morning, Emily decided she needed to know the truth. Not assumptions, not gut feelings, but proof. She waited until Daniel left for work, then went into his office. His phone wasn't there, but his laptop was still open. She sat down, her heart pounding. She knew she shouldn't, but she did. She opened his email. Nothing. Then she checked his messages on a synced app, and there it was. A conversation with Rachel. Hundreds of messages. Flirty, intimate, obvious. Her hands trembled as she scrolled, each line slicing deeper into her chest. And then she saw the photos. Rachel smiling at his desk, their inside jokes, the way he called her Ray. Emily's whole body went cold. She slammed the laptop shut and sat in silence for what felt like hours. The truth was in front of her, undeniable. Daniel was cheating. And suddenly, the guilt she'd been feeling about Jason began to fade, replaced by something darker: anger. The revenge dinner. That evening, when Daniel came home, Emily was calm, too calm. Dinner was ready, candles were lit, music was playing. He looked surprised. What's all this? Just thought we could have a nice night, she said with a sweet smile. They ate, laughed a little, even talked about Sophie's preschool. For a brief moment, Daniel almost believed things were normal again. Then, as she poured him another glass of wine, Emily leaned in and whispered, "How's Rachel?" He froze. The glass stopped halfway to his mouth. What? Emily's eyes gleamed, sharp, knowing. You heard me. He swallowed hard. Emily, I don't know what you think you know. "Oh, I know exactly what I know," she snapped, her voice trembling now. "I saw your messages, Daniel. I saw everything." He went pale. "You went through my stuff? After you've been lying to me for months? Damn right I did." Sophie started crying upstairs, but neither of them moved. "Emily, please, it's not—" Don't you dare lie again. You think I'm some fool who doesn't notice when her husband starts sneaking around?" The fury in her voice broke into a sob. Daniel looked crushed, guilty, but also angry. "You don't get to lecture me like you're innocent. You've been distant for months, always on your phone, going out with friends. I've noticed too, Emily, you're not perfect." Her eyes widened. "You think that justifies this?" "No," he said quietly, "but it means this marriage didn't fall apart overnight." They stared at each other across the table. Two people who'd once loved each other fiercely, now standing on opposite sides of betrayal. Finally, Emily stood up. "I can't do this right now." She walked upstairs, locked the bedroom door, and cried until she fell asleep. The spiral. The following week was chaos. They spoke only when necessary. Emily started spending more time out of the house, shopping, seeing friends, sometimes meeting Jason. She didn't tell him about Daniel's affair, but Jason could tell something had changed. "You're hurting," he said one night, as they sat in his car, parked outside her house. Emily stared at the rain sliding down the windshield. "He cheated." His face darkened. "You deserve better than that." She turned to him, her eyes wet. "Do I? Because I'm no better. I've been lying too." He reached out, cupping her face. "You're human, Emily. You're not perfect. You just wanted to feel something real again." Their lips met again, harder this time, fueled by pain and confusion. But in that moment, Emily wasn't thinking about right or wrong. She just wanted to forget. Daniel's regret. Meanwhile, Daniel's guilt was eating him alive. Rachel wanted more time, more commitment, more him. But every time he looked at his daughter or walked into the home he'd built with Emily, he felt the crushing weight of what he'd done. One evening, Rachel showed up unannounced at his office, furious. "You've been ignoring me for days, Daniel. You can't just ghost me like this." He looked exhausted. "Rachel, please, this isn't the place. I don't care. You said you were unhappy. You said you wanted something real." "I was wrong," he said quietly. "I thought I did, but I can't do this anymore." Rachel's face twisted in disbelief. "You're going back to her?" He didn't answer. He didn't have to. Rachel's voice dropped, cold and dangerous. "You'll regret this." She walked out, leaving him staring at the floor, feeling more lost than ever. The beginning of the end. That night, Daniel came home early. Emily was sitting in the living room, scrolling through her phone, her expression blank. He sat across from her. "We need to talk." She didn't look up. "About what?" "About us, about everything." Emily finally met his eyes, tired, guarded, almost numb. "I don't know if there's anything left to talk about, Daniel." "I made a mistake," he said softly. "A huge one. But I want to fix this. I'll do whatever it takes." She stared at him for a long time before speaking. "Do you even know how much you've broken me?" "I do," he whispered, "and I hate myself for it." For the first time in weeks, her eyes softened just a little. "You're not the only one who made mistakes," she said quietly. He frowned. "What do you mean?" Emily hesitated, and that pause told him everything. The room went silent, thick with realization. Daniel's voice trembled. "Who?" Tears filled her eyes, but she didn't answer. Daniel stood, backing away slowly, his face pale with disbelief. "Oh my God, Emily. Tell me you didn't." But her silence was enough. And in that moment, everything shattered.
It had been 3 months since the scandal broke. 3 months since Daniel lost his job, Rachel vanished from the public eye, and Emily tried to rebuild what little was left of their lives. The world had moved on, but ghosts don't fade that easily. The storm wasn't over. It was just gathering strength again. The quiet before. Daniel stood in front of the bathroom mirror, tying his tie, something he hadn't done in weeks. He had an interview at a small construction firm, nothing close to what he used to make, but it was a start. Emily walked in, holding Sophie's backpack. "You look good," she said softly. He smiled. "Trying to." She helped adjust his tie, a small, domestic gesture that felt foreign now. "You'll do great." "Thank you," he said, and meant it. There was an unspoken warmth between them. Fragile, hesitant, but real. For a moment, it felt almost normal. The letter. That afternoon, Emily found a manila envelope in their mailbox. No return address. Inside was a printed email thread between Daniel and Rachel. Private messages from before the affair ended. Flirtatious, personal, intimate. Her hands trembled as she read them. They weren't new to her. She'd seen screenshots before, but these ones had more context. Rachel had written, "If you ever leave your wife, I'll make sure you never regret it." And Daniel's reply, "I can't leave her. Not yet. She's still my anchor." Emily's throat tightened. Anchor. She'd been his anchor. Not his love, not his choice. Just the thing that kept him from drifting too far into guilt. Her phone buzzed. A text. Unknown number. "You still think he's changed?" She froze. Rachel. The call. When Daniel got home that evening, Emily was sitting at the kitchen table, the printed messages spread out before her. He stopped cold. "Where did you get those?" She said, "They came in the mail." He sighed. "Rachel." "She texted me," Emily added. He looked alarmed. "What did she say?" "That she still wants to see you pay." He sat down across from her, rubbing his temples. "He's insane." "She's hurt," Emily replied sharply. "Because you hurt her. And you hurt me. You created all of this, Daniel." "I know," he said. "And I'm sorry." "Sorry doesn't erase it," she said, her voice breaking. "I'm trying, Daniel. I really am. But every time I think we're moving forward, something pulls us back." He leaned forward. "Then let's stop letting her win." "She already has," Emily whispered. "You just don't see it." Rachel's return. 2 nights later, as rain poured down outside, someone knocked on their door. Daniel opened it, and there she was. Rachel. Soaked, trembling, eyes bloodshot. "Daniel," she said softly, "please, I need to talk." He hesitated. "Rachel, you can't be here." Emily appeared behind him. "What the hell do you want?" Rachel looked at her, not with anger, but with exhaustion. "I'm not here to fight. I'm here to apologize." Emily crossed her arms. "You think that means anything now?" Rachel stepped forward. "You don't understand. It's gone too far. The media, the rumors, the threats. Someone's been following me. This isn't just about us anymore." Daniel frowned. "What are you talking about?" Rachel pulled out her phone, showing them messages from an unknown number. Photos of her apartment, her car, even her family. They said I needed to keep quiet, that if I didn't, they'd make me disappear. Emily looked skeptical. "Why are you showing us this?" "Because," Rachel said, her voice cracking, "I think it's someone from your company, Daniel. Someone who knew everything." Daniel's blood ran cold. He'd suspected for weeks that the leak hadn't come from Rachel herself, but from inside Westfield Engineering. "What do they want?" Emily asked. "To destroy both of us," Rachel whispered. "They want this scandal buried, and they'll bury me with it." The truths uncovered. Over the next few days, Daniel quietly started digging, reaching out to old coworkers, calling in favors. Eventually, one name kept coming up. Marcus Kane, the vice president of operations, the same man who'd mentored Daniel for years and who'd always warned him to keep things clean. He found out Marcus was having his own affair with another employee, and Rachel knew about it. Marcus leaked Daniel's story to the media to protect himself. Daniel confronted him in the parking lot of a country club, rain pouring down like a bad movie scene. "Marcus!" Daniel shouted. The older man turned, startled. "Daniel, you shouldn't be here." "You leaked the story," Daniel said. "You used me to cover your own mess." Marcus's expression hardened. "You brought this on yourself." "You destroyed my life," Daniel hissed. "You ruined my family." "I saved the company," Marcus replied coldly, "and I'll do it again if I have to." Daniel stepped closer. "You're going to fix this." Marcus smiled faintly. "Or what?" Daniel's fists clenched, but he stopped himself. He wasn't that man anymore. Instead, he pulled out his phone and hit record. "You're going to tell the truth, Marcus," he said calmly, "on camera, right now." Marcus sneered. "You think anyone will believe you?" Daniel raised the phone. "They'll believe you." After a long pause, Marcus finally said, "Fine. But this won't change what you did." Daniel stared him down. "No, but it might change what comes next." Redemption. The video went viral within hours. Marcus confessed on camera that he leaked the affair to the press to protect himself. The company issued a statement clearing Daniel of misconduct. The damage to his reputation was still there, but for the first time, the truth was finally out. Emily watched the news, tears in her eyes. Daniel sat beside her, silent. "You did it," she said softly. He shook his head. "We did it. You never stopped believing I could." She smiled faintly. "Maybe I didn't believe in you. Maybe I just didn't want to believe you were gone." He reached for her hand. "I don't deserve you." "No, but maybe now you're learning how to." Rachel's farewell. A week later, Rachel came by one last time. She looked healthier, calmer, as if the chaos had finally settled. "I wanted to say thank you for not letting him destroy me too. You didn't deserve what happened. I'm sorry for everything I put you through." She nodded. "Maybe someday I'll forgive you, but not yet." Then she turned to Emily. "You're stronger than I ever was." Emily met her eyes. "No, just more tired." Rachel smiled sadly. "Take care of each other." And with that, she walked away. This time, for good. The rebuild. Months passed. Daniel started consulting for small firms, slowly rebuilding his reputation. Emily went back to painting, something she hadn't done in years. Sophie's laughter filled the house again, the sound they both realized they'd missed most. One evening, Daniel found Emily in the backyard, sitting on the swing with a glass of wine. He sat beside her. "It's been a long year." She nodded. "Feels like 10. He looked at her. "Do you think we'll ever be okay again?" She smiled faintly. "We'll never be who we were, but maybe we can be something better." He took her hand. "I'll spend the rest of my life trying to earn that." She leaned her head against his shoulder. "Then that's enough for me." For once, there was no pretense, no performance, just two people, scarred, but still standing. The epilogue. 6 months later, Daniel got a letter from a major firm in Chicago. They wanted him to lead a new division, a fresh start. He showed it to Emily. "It's a big move, but it could mean everything for us." She read it carefully, then looked up. "Then let's do it. Together." He smiled. Together. As they packed their things weeks later, Emily found the old wedding photo they'd almost thrown away months ago. She held it for a long time before placing it gently in a box. The past wasn't gone. It never would be, but for the first time in years, it didn't define them. They'd walked through fire, and somehow come out still holding hands.